there is a ground to cloud, cloud to ground working group. We meet every other week, and in the in-between weeks, there's other groups that meet that are related. It's very hard to say ground to cloud and cloud to ground quickly, and maybe that's purposeful. It forces us to think about the words, or maybe it's just accidental. But the group started out talking about operating points of what are the different quality classes and things. We pretty quickly coalesced that there were three kind of types of video people would want to send to and from the cloud. There's a sort of premium, this is the production of some, the Academy Awards or some, tremendous show kind of tier. And for that, we'd probably use something like JPEG XS. There's a lot of, call it interactive latency, H.264 quality stuff that you can do that is, H.264 at moderate, to small GOPS and progressive refresh if you really want excellent latency. And there's a lot of use cases around that that are, making a lot of shows you watch today. So that's, clearly a use case because people are using it. And then at the low end of that, there's the very bandwidth optimized, usually one directional kind of things that have, just squeezing the bits out as best they can or trading down the quality a little bit. So these different use cases exist in the wild for getting to and from the cloud. Now, thinking about the kind of the high end one for a minute, pretty quickly we kind of said, well, what are the interoperation points? What are the points of it that should be documented so that you can buy piece parts from different people, plug them together, make a system quickly? So when you're going from the ground to the cloud, the interop point really is kind of in the network. There's a stream that's organized somehow, and it has video, audio, and data parts, and maybe they're wrapped and maybe they're protected with a -7 or ARQ or something. But that stream handoff or that signal handoff, the IP layer really is where you have to define. But when you get up into the cloud and you talk about the handoff between instances of things, it's far less clear. You don't really want to talk about the handoff being in the network as much as you want to talk about the handoff being potentially a data structure or some intermediate layer, and then allowing the cloud service provider to have some good way to hand off, buffer of stuff from my application to your application without either of us having to know too much about the details beyond how long is it going to take to get there, or is it going to get there in one piece? So that's been the working model, that interoperation point is really for going between instances within a cloud. It's somewhere in the middle that interop point is. And then, of course, when you leave the cloud, you're back to interoping at the, what all did you send me level. So all that said, the work really has fallen into a couple of work items here. One was around what are these requirements for these tiers? And now there's work going on in VSF to actually define all those things. So tier 08 and tier 07 are definitions of the stream, the package that goes with JPEG XS. So how do you do 07 is, well, I don't want to steal the thunder of that group. I'm sure they'll have a slide. And then tier 09 is work of a parallel group looking at 2110 over WAN and the structures for that. We've talked about whether there's enough purpose now to document is there really a residual purpose to documenting the transport stream H.264 use case? But honestly, most of that is so widely practiced already. I'm not sure we can reel it in versus, just sort of allowing that the world is a complicated place and really looking to the risk as hopefully the eventual binding strategy there, and maybe the connection management work going on in ISO 9 for WAN connection management will help us with that. The current group we've really focused on now is around timing and how do we keep track of time going through the network so that you can eventually associate things back up. And then kind of our next objective is to look at the data blob, data structure stuff that's handed from, from instance to instance as you go through the network. So all that said, this is our fancy timing diagram. We're slowly coalescing this into a more useful form for people of how time is used and tracked through the system. But it all relates to putting tags on things that say what time they come from, so you can eventually match them up later. What time and which clock that time is relative to. So that's the work in progress. And then we'll look next at the how do we pass data between software applications. That's pretty much where we are. So in our original activity proposal, we had sort of these two big tasks, and we're working through them. And that's my 5 less minutes summary.
All right, great. John, thank you very much. I appreciate it. If anybody has any interest in the work of your group, they can contact you, I assume. And thanks for the update.
No problem.